How are you, Barry?
Good, thank you, Daniel. Good to be here today.
Now, your tribal group are the Goongandji. Can you tell us, Barry, who are the Goongandji?
The Goongandji people are traditional people of Yarrabah, which is we're in Cairns. They cross the bay. Yarrabah traditional people over there, the Goongandji, and that's my mother's people, the Goongandji, and that's where I grew up. And Yarrabah means a meeting place. So in the early tribal days, Cairns, which is Gimoy and all other tribes that are here. I'm also part of Gimoy and Cairns on my grandmother's side, Teddy Formal. All you 4 Mile mob out there, and I feel like I've got a campfire here doing this interview on country, and also when I go back home at Yarrabah, so I can feel the pulse both ways here, and I'm feeling more relaxed.
I'm happy you're feeling more relaxed there, brother. Now, most people know you for your music, but you've got a background in education. Could you enlighten us a little bit more about that, please, bro?
Yeah, well, teaching for me and all kids, we learn at home, and our first teachers were parents, and I really took that on, and elders, and, you know, the elders would tell you stories about the Dreamtime or where you're from, or Goongandji stories, and about Yarrabah and history and the life of people there. So when I went to school, I had non-Indigenous teachers, white teachers, who I thanked them too for showing us the way forward and how learning can be different, but also fun. I had fun at home, sitting around campfires, that type of learning. So
Sure.
I call my home life campfire learning. And when I came to school, it's that Western learning. And where the two meet at the crossroads, that made it more challenging and more exciting. And I really got to like all my white teachers, from kindy, from grade 1 to primary. They were my building blocks, important part of my life through the primary school. And then I went to high school, and then away to boarding school, and then on my way back over to university. Along my journey, I'm thankful for a lot of people, my parents and my elders, but also when I got into more formal education, structured education was slightly different. I thank my teachers too, because that's where I learned to read and write better and sing a lot better. And who Barry Cedric is today, I thank a lot of people along the way for that educational journey and the respect and the love and the passion that they put into me, and I reciprocated that by respecting them. And I actually absolutely love them. I can remember all of my teachers.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You had so much respect for your teachers.
Yes, certainly, yeah.
Okay, so do you want to tell us about where did you study, please, bro? Do you want to tell us a bit about that, please?
Yeah, Townsville Teachers College in the day, the old TCAE. Back then, that, you know, since the 1970s, 1972, there was a push by the Whitlam government to push for Indigenous education and the importance for Indigenous education at the time. And there was a lot of focus when this RATEP was, not RATEP, but the Teachers College was set up, and they wanted, 100 teachers by a couple of years or something. But we gathered around in Townsville, a host of us, groups of Indigenous students, Torres Strait Islander students from all across the Torres Strait, across Queensland, across North Queensland.
Wow.
And we all gathered around Townsville learning, and that was really, really good. And I really wanted to be a teacher because I had good teachers along the way, so that inspired me again to answer that early question about my education. And it's just another level, and I enjoy that.
And I suppose you could see yourself as lucky that you were there at the right time in the late 70s when there was a big push to improve Indigenous education. And while at uni, you were inspired by another person. Do you want to talk about that person?
Yeah, well there was about 25 of us in this group, a G group, and it was a lunchtime, and I probably was amongst one of the youngest there, and I was sitting down in the foyer or around this table, sitting alone, having my lunch, and an elder, distinguished gentleman, he sat down, had glasses on, and I don't know about anybody else listening, but the first word come out of a conversation is either hello and how you going, mate, but this time it was, where you from, my brother? And that's all he said. This distinguished gentleman, and he said, what's your name? I said, my name's Barry Cedric. I said, what's your name? He said, oh, well, my name Uncle Koiki. You can call me Uncle.
Right. Okay.
So it was Uncle Koiki, and then that was the introduction. Where you from, my brother? And I told him I'm from Yarrabah there, on the other side, Cairns. And I didn't have a song at the time, but at the end of the day, mind you, it turned out to be one of those popular songs, not only sung around campfires, or it was larger than that. You could sing it on every Murray community in the Cape, or Palm, or Cherbourg, or Warrabinda. Where you from, my brother? And it came from Koiki. Nice. And I found it. Well, what's your last name? He said, Koiki Mabo. Said,
okay.
Oh. And him and I, in the beginning of that conversation, we started to relinquish a good relationship between uncle and nephew. Right. And then he told me a lot of stories that what he was going to do, and how should I be more upright and stand up for yourself and start writing your own songs. That's all he said. Start writing your own songs, sing your own songs, share it with people, and be proud. Walk the walk, son, and walk the talk.
Okay, now before we came on air, Barry, you were telling me a bit about the church in Yarrabah and its involvement in education. Can you tell us a bit about that, please?
Yarrabah was started out as a missionary in 1892, and so we had this generation of, since Gribble landed there in 1892, first thing he built was a church, and then two dormitories, a girl and a boys' dormitory for kids. So for generations on, my grandmother and my grandparents and the whole community were driven by the church, was under the governance of Father Gribble. So everybody had to go to church. So it still carried on after generations after that to my days, and it was good for us to go to Sunday school, and the elders came down, and one of them, my grandmother, who came down and do RI at the school. So my first influence was singing church and gospel songs, and then I went into. Mum bought one day in the 1970s, early 70s, bought a gramophone.
Okay.
A gramophone with vinyl records, and she'd bring over the Slim Dusties and the Charlie Prys and Hank Snow, Hank Williams, and so it was a step up from the church music, and then the influence of country music early in the day of country music, and of course it was just different today. You got all this technical stuff, but back then it was just that old gramophone on vinyl.
Wow.
That I listened to, all the country music, and then in the 70s I started listening to pop music. So by that time that I started to sing more professionally, I had a background of different styles of music.
And of course you can hear those influences coming through in your music, country and western, reggae, pop. Okay, brother, not many people know about Yarrabah, your hometown. Can you tell us about Yarrabah? Yarrabah
means a meeting place, Yarrabah, meeting place of the Goongandji people, the traditional owners. Founded in 1982 by, when I say founded, but my traditional people was under the leadership of King Minmini, who my great-great-grandfather.
Was that 19 or 1892?
1892. Gribble landed there and officially opened them as a mission in the days. the Church of England at the time gave Gribble to find a mission up in North Queensland, and Yarrabah was the spot, Mission Bay. And then he set up shop in 1989 too, built a church and then 2 dormitories. They were separated. The tribe was at one end, and Gribble and his party, his wife and family, was at the other end. And over a year or so, invited Minmini and finally met with the tribal leader.
Yep.
And invited him and be part of a community. So that's the building phase of the mission community since then. And Gribble decided Minmini to live together as one. So that's when the mission was established and a fledgling community began. And and they stayed there, and he was the administrator of the mission days and the missionary times that he spent in Yarrabah. Gribble did, and he set up a school, and his family got the kids to go to school. So when you brought the kids to a school and a school building, the other parents had to come in and join this community. So and that's how Yarrabah first started. So I'm from humble beginnings to now, and then Gribble now has gone, but Yarrabah then went under the governance, and from the 60s under the state government, and they took over governance then.
Okay, thank you. And Yarrabah, it's made up of many different tribes. Can you tell us about some of them groups, please, brother?
Yeah, Daniel, from the mission times, when the mission got up and running really well, Gribble actually went throughout Cairns and getting people sent from Cairns and eventually around the state. So a lot of people from the Cape came down to Yarrabah dormitory. A lot of people came from family came from Fraser Island, Cloncurry, Mount Isa, all around the state of Queensland,
right? And
to establish a Yarrabah. And one stage we had a representation of about Yarrabah being a core group of 20 or 30 tribes of peoples from the Tablelands to the Cape York, Hopevale, Warrabinda, Cherbourg, and Fraser Island, and out west even, Cloncurry.
Right.
Well, my grandmother's from Palm Island. Palm Island was established around the same time, but Palm Island was a different set of history there. It was set up as a penal settlement, and it was on an island, so it was different governance and different way of life that they had there. But Yarrabah was set up by the Church of England, by Father Gribble. He passed on, and he sent his son. So Ernest Gribble Jr. took over after his father set up shop, as it was in the early days of the mission times. Okay. So Yarrabah evolved through a lot of political changes over the years in governance until we've got self-determination and self-management in the early 80s. And in those times, Yarrabah was one of the leading communities, bigger communities that in many ways, like other communities around Queensland and Australia, led the way and gathered a lot of people to live as one. So Yarrabah, with 30 tribes represented, we just go under Yarrabah, but they acknowledge the traditional owners, the Goongandji people over there, which is my tribe, and my grandmother's tribe. Grandfather's tribe, rather. My grandmother's tribe is in Cairns here, the Gimoy people. Right. Gimoy is for Cairns.
Right. Gimoy meaning the traditional name.
Traditional name.
Yes, the First Nations people of Cairns referred to the area as Gimoy. Now, if you stand on top of the mountain and look south of Cairns, you'll see Yarrabah in the morning, and it is paradise. That's for sure. Barry?
It is, you got the Great Barrier Reef out there. Mm-hmm. You got Green Island, Fitzroy Island, the Pacific Ocean. Uh-huh. And I usually say, I'm going to go overseas for holidays this year. Mm-hmm. See that island or Green Island, or I might go visit overseas for a holiday.
Okay.
Fitzroy Island or Green Island, but that's how far.
Yeah.
And Captain Cook, a footnote in history, Captain Cook in 1770, he's on his way to Cooktown. Mm-hmm. His ship was the Endeavour was shipwrecked at just outside of Green Island.
Right. And
he had to go for someplace for fresh water. So he came into Yarrabah. So there was a monument in the mm-hmm. early 70s built there where Captain Cook, or to commemorate the landing of Cook. So he took Sir Joseph Banks and they looked at the fauna and flora and the plants and all that fresh water.
Must have been blowing.
Oh, wow. And they seen all them smoke signals all around the place, but they didn't meet up with the local.
They didn't know how many people there were. They didn't know nothing.
So they just left. So and it's all documented in Cook's diaries.
Yes.
If you want to go and follow up and read, but it's interesting. Sure. So with all that, it gives a unique perspective on Yarrabah history and where we're going to in the future.
Okay, now. The first time I ever heard one of your songs was on the radio, probably Yarrabah Rangers. When was it you first started taking music seriously, bro?
It was just after, after the Mabo decision was handed down. Mm-hmm. I had this song, Where You From My Brother. So, Where You From My Brother? So I sung that on nearly all the 12 communities of the Cape, except the island communities. But I went as far as Bamaga with my music, mm-hmm. north, and then all the way down the east coast, out west, even to Mount Isa and Charter Stars, Country and Western festivals, all the way down the east coast and toured east coast to even Sydney, Brisbane, and then Tasmania even.
Right, wow. Down the cold country.
Yeah, it was very cold, and this is when I first met Michael Mansell. Hi, Michael, and all the Koreans from down there. So, Where You From My Brother? And, I could sing that wherever I go, even from a campfire, to re-energize the batteries when I came back. I still sat around campfires and sung Where You From My Brother.
It's a great tune, yeah. And you were telling me earlier, Barry, about your first CD titled Dreamtime. Can you tell us a bit more about how many albums you put out?
Dreamtime was to try to recapture the Dreamtime stories of Yarrabah, the culture, the language, and try and, for the first time, to put language together. Yarrabah had a recording of elders singing Goongandji traditional songs and telling stories in laguage. Yes. And that's I think when I went to Canberra, they had a copy down there. But I think it was the first time for a young muso like me, to reintroduce some languages. So, Where You From My Brother, or saying Kungai, or something about the land and tribe, and chucking a few words in that to try and teach other people and non-Indigenous people and our own people at Yarrabah at the time, and it worked really well because people seemed to like instill some pride back into the community. And
I'm sure you brought a lot of joy with your music.
Even though we had 19 or 20 different tribal people, but we can all say we're from Yarrabah, all the songs from Yarrabah, or you can actually even say, we're all Goongandji, we're all Idinji. But I'm so lucky to be, I can sit around two campfires, the Idinji, which is Cairns, my grandmother's side, and my grandfather's side at Yarrabah, the Goongandji.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So I'm about telling Dreamtime stories and how people are connected to the land and how tribal people can tell the stories and about the importance of the land at the time and try to tell that to the rest of Australia, really, to try and break down some of those stereotypical types and some of the thoughts of the day, and it was to remind, but to empower. I think at the time in the 70s, after the land rights movement, I decided, and then I released a song called "I'm an Aborigine." Yes. In 1988, and that was a momentous occasion for the whole of Australia. The world's Indigenous Peoples Year also, and 1988 was the bicentennial. Australia took 200 years. So I wrote a song called "I'm an Aborigine" just to have a bit of pride and place and make a statement. Say, I'm Australian, but I'm also Aboriginal.
Yeah.
And it was slightly political, the song, but I liked it. Then later in 1988 a couple of years later, I released a song called Treaty. It was before the Yothiindi.
Yeah.
And it was called Love, Respect and Care. But it was called Treaty first, so it was a treaty song, and I still got that. And Treaty I loved singing the song, but it kind of fell on deaf ears. Nobody wanted to know. It was a new concept about a treaty. They called it different other things, a compact, and they call it an agreement, and they call it this, that, and the other. But it at least got on people's consciousness and got people at different levels, even Indigenous affairs, to try and push towards a treaty. And so 30 years later, here I am. Don't sing it anymore, but I always like to sing it around campfires, just to let people know that we still had a treaty. And then Yothiindi bring out a big hit of treaty. So it's for Yothiindi took it a step further and went to the world with the song.
Yep.
But I made a statement back in 1988 or 1987.
Sure, it's a great track, bro.
Yeah. But I think we're going to have a treaty amongst ourselves. My idea, what I think, is that before we have a treaty between black and white or with government, or we have to have love, respect and care amongst ourselves.
Sure.
Families and different tribal groups, the whole of North Queensland, the whole of Queensland.
I agree.
And then Australia. So in those steps, whereas New Zealand, they had their own it was a whole set of history over there that happened where they had their treaty well entrenched and enshrined in the Constitution. And this is where it is today. It's still not fully in the Constitution and enshrined in the Constitution of Australia.
That's right.
At this moment in time. But that's the aim, and thank you, Yothiindi. But I had a song like Treaty. It was back in 1988, but one day I might re-release that song. But
yeah, that would be fantastic. Treaty now.
Treaty now.
Okay, Barry, you're going to be performing at the Cairns Indigenous Art Fair in July. Can you tell us about what songs you'll be doing? What have you got organised? At
this stage, I've been called into, as every year in Kayaf, and thanks to Kayaf people up here, Renee and Daryl and the whole host of lovely people who promote Indigenous art from the Cape and locals throughout North Queensland and Cairns area. And it's going to be, I think it's great because I get to perform at there. I'm just getting excited about Kayaf. So it's on in July, a couple of first week of first week of July, and I think for this one I'm looking forward to it, and then appreciate the artwork and the art forms of Indigenous people from the Cape and throughout North Queensland. So and I'm even privileged to even sing, and I've got some new songs from the book, new song lines from the book, and it's going to be exciting. So new songs that no one has heard before from Barry Cedric.
Okay, so you just finished your book, and who did you do your book with again?
Bachelor Press from my Bachelor College. So I spent 4 years up there studying, and thank you, Bachelor College, for in the Northern Territory receiving study up there, and then it was rightly so that our book was continuing. They said, no, look, you studied here, so why don't you let Bachelor Press help you with the book? So they did. It's 100-page of all the song lines, all the songs that I've written, song lines, and filled with black and white and coloured photographs of some of the songs, and
it looks great,
and some notes of explanation of each song. So, yeah.
Wow, that's really exciting for you. And what was it again that you were studying at Bachelor College?
I was studying Bachelor of Primary Teaching, and but I didn't go out teaching straight away, and then I got a little bit crooked. I didn't look after my health, so I had a triple bypass, but I'm better. The doctor
you look great.
Doctor said, before the triple bypass in Brisbane, Prince Charles, and I said, hey, Doc, how's the thing going to go? How's the operation? He said, Barry, you're going to be much stronger. You can sing a lot better, and, you'll be really good. We'll fix you up. So they gave me a new heart, and this is the new Barry. This is the new Barry Cedric. We're in 2022, so...
You're looking great, Barry.
Thank you.
Okay, the dates for CIAF this year are the 6th of July to the 10th of July. Okay, maybe for everyone listening out there, you can contact CIAF to check with the dates that Barry will be performing. Okay, and you've also got your book available. If anyone's interested in the book, who will they contact, please?
They can contact me. Email address is Stafford, capital S, which is the only capital letter. So Stafford Cedric, one word, 67
Yep.
at gmail.com.
Okay, if anyone's interested in seeing Barry perform, you can go along to the CIAF event. And if you're interested, you could contact Barry via his email if you want to get a copy of that book. Anything else you'd like to talk about, Barry?
That's pretty much it at the moment. We're coming out of COVID, and we've done all this other good stuff. It kept my family and our family and a lot of other families together. And I think we're just about to go out and spread our wings to fly again. But musically, I've been writing a bit more and haven't shared. So the performance at CIAF is going to be a whole set of new songs coming out from this book. That's exciting. I'm writing some more. I'm going back and revisit family ties, and I want to go walk on country up at Laura Way on my father's side, the Lama people up there, and just enjoy my life now, because I think I've run the race, but I'm not finished. But I'd like to just pass on the baton or the flame to other inspiring young musicians in North Queensland or wherever I go, and share the journey with them. But don't have to perform anymore. I don't think I've performed much more, but I'd just like to encourage.
That's right. Encourage our young ones to have pride in themselves and the things that they do,
and be proud of I'm an Aborigine, and where you're from, my brother, and and just have this toolbox and put all these other things in, about your pride and your history and who you are, and then try and share your journey, and that's where your songs can come in, or your song lines, and go back and ask the old people, or sit down with them, the ones who are left to carry on the legacy, because we've got a generation that's still waiting to be born yet.
Very true. Well, thanks for coming in today, Barry. It's been fantastic hearing your stories and finding out more about your music and some of your early days. Thanks for coming in, Barry. We'll see you soon.
My pleasure, Daniel. Yundu Gulling means see you later. Bye-bye.